whereas others have limited success in both. Furthermore, some children are more social and comfortable in those situations than other kids. In all these examples, as children are growing up and engaging in these different kinds of activities, they're learning something about themselves, and furthermore, they're making self-evaluations. For instance, what does it mean to a particular child if he likes art but not sports, or he feels uncomfortable in social situations? What if he likes sports but not academic subjects? How does he understand and define himself on the basis of these discoveries? In other words, are those things acceptable to him? And how does he integrate those experiences and those self-evaluations into the idea of who he is? Now, these are just some of the issues that arise in the early stages of the development of self-concepts via self-evaluations. Of course, these kinds of questions and related self-evaluations are continuous throughout life, particularly into the early parts of adulthood. Furthermore, the range of issues that involve self-evaluations is very broad. However, to simplify this, it can be reasonably said that the vast majority of self-evaluations fall into three categories: the mind, the body, and relationships. Now, I don't mean to suggest that there's no overlap among these categories. I had just said a little while ago that self-evaluations typically are the result of an assessment of an integration of one's mind and body. But it's helpful to look at self-evaluations in each of these three areas to give some sense of the fundamental issues that they cover, with the understanding that they will overlap to some extent. So let's take each of these in turn, beginning with self-evaluations of the mind. Self-evaluations of one's mind can include one's level and amount of intelligence, the clarity of one's thinking, the amount and quality of one's knowledge in a given subject or across a range of topics, the speed of one's thinking, and its accuracy. Self-evaluations regarding these issues are essentially answers to the following questions. Am I an intelligent person, and if so, to what extent? Am I a person who thinks clearly, or do I find I'm often confused? What and how much do I know about a given subject, and is my knowledge adequate? Am I a person whose mind grasps things quickly? When I come to a conclusion, is it usually correct, or am I usually mistaken? Now, there are many other questions one could pose to himself about the quality of his mind, but answers to those indicated provide one with some pretty fundamental self-evaluations in regard to his mental ability. Specifically, the common theme in all those questions is the answer to the question, am I a person whose mind is effective? Now, the issue of efficacy is also fundamental to self-evaluations of one's body, but obviously in different ways. For instance, self-evaluations of one's body include one's ability to perform any number of physical tasks. These range from the basics of getting yourself up, getting showered, getting dressed, making yourself something to eat, to more complex tasks, such as performing some athletic action in football or gymnastics, dancing, playing an instrument, and so forth. Now, self-evaluations of the body can also regard one's physical health and attractiveness. So the related questions to these issues include, is my body healthy and functioning well? Am I physically able to take care of myself? Can I perform complex or skilled actions, again, such as dancing? What physical things am I not able to do? And am I a physically attractive person, and if so, to who and why? So similar to the previous category, the core question here is, am I a person whose body is effective? So you have, am I a person whose mind is effective? Am I a person whose body is effective? Now consider self-evaluations in regard to relationships. Each person has any number of relationships, each with their own purposes, issues, and processes. Specifically, one has family relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, professional relationships, and other social relationships such as belonging to a club or an organization. And of course, many of these relationships can overlap. But the basic self-evaluative question in regard to relationships is this: am I a person who is capable of having effective, productive, and positive relationships with others in whatever context, as a spouse, as a friend, as a coworker? That's the basic question. Now, I hope it's apparent that the conclusions one comes to regarding these questions will have significant implications for one's self-concept. For example, what's the likely self-concept of someone who concludes, I'm unintelligent, unattractive, and don't work very hard? Will that be a positive or a negative self-concept? Or someone who concludes, I'm intelligent, but physically uncoordinated and am unable to have meaningful relationships with people? What would that person's self-concept be? Now, obviously, there are all kinds of combinations of self-evaluations across the categories of one's mind, one's body, and relationships. And a self-concept is precisely the sum total of all these self-evaluations. So here we have one crucial aspect of the definition of a self-concept. A self-concept is a fundamental and summary evaluation of one's effectiveness in all areas of life. It is an evaluation of the efficacy of one's existence. It's an evaluation of the efficacy of one's existence. Now, this definition helps in understanding what a self-concept is. However, there's another aspect to making self-evaluations that further highlights the psychological value of a self-concept. Specifically, if I'm to answer such questions as, am I intelligent or am I attractive, then what do I need to come to a conclusion? The answer is that I need a standard of value.